Hey everybody, this is Caitlin and you are watching Zombie Eats Books. So I have quite a few books here from a thrift shop that I just recently discovered in my neighborhood. All the books are $1 and then all the hardbacks are $2, which isn't too unusual for a thrift shop, but what is unusual is they got rid of all their clothes and now half the store is full of books. So I recently, coincidentally, had to buy a new bookshelf because I've been visiting that thrift shop probably once a week. It's my de-stressor activity each week, basically. So that's what I've been doing. So I will show you all the books that I've found. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. I think what's really struck me about it is that every single review I've ever watched of it, the person that is talking about it is so emotionally overcome that they can't even articulate how they feel about it. All I really know is that it's about a young black girl who wants to have blue eyes. A Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier by Ishmael Bale. This is about a young boy who is basically captured by the government army in Sierra Leone. It's his story, what he had to do, the atrocities that he committed, and also of his personal redemption. The Long Silence of Mario Salviati by Etienne van Herdeen. And this one is translated, let's see here, by Catherine Knox. So this is about an art curator who lives in South Africa, and she travels to this remote town, this remote village on top of a mountain. And the reason that she does this is she wants to procure this merman statue that's just suddenly appeared in the front lawn of one of the villagers. Margaret the First, Danielle Dutton. This one I actually didn't get at the thrift shop. This one I ordered online used, so it was still very affordable. I've been wanting this one because I've never read about Margaret the First. I'm interested in her life, and also this cover is just gorgeous. French flaps, bright yellow on the inside, and it's velvety. Can't resist the velvety books. Okay, so Everything I Never Told You by Celeste, and I can't really pronounce her last name. This is about a Chinese-American family. They lose their daughter. She dies in some mysterious way, I think, or maybe she commits suicide, I'm not sure. And then all of these secrets come out about the family. I've heard about this on YouTube, and everybody that's read it seems to really enjoy it. Also found The Secret Supper by Javier Sierra. This one is translated fiction. Let me see who it's translated by. It's translated by Alberto Manuel. So this one kind of reminds me of the Da Vinci Code. I never read the Da Vinci Code, but it is one of those religious conspiracy books. I'm fascinated by religion, not necessarily fascinated by religious conspiracy that's fiction. But since it was a translated work of fiction, then I thought that I would give it a shot. Allie Smith, The First Person and Other Stories. This is a book, this is an author, I should say, that I've been wanting to read for quite a while. I also have another book by her, The Accidental maybe, and I haven't read it yet, but I've been wanting to read her fiction. I've heard she's pretty experimental in that she doesn't use punctuation. So maybe a short story collection is something that I will get to sooner than the novel, just because of lack of time. Night by Elie Weisel, and this is translated by his wife, Marion. This is this author's account of being in concentration camps. Justine by Lawrence Durrell. This one is about a library in Alexandria, and it says that the pursuit of knowledge leads to no library, only to the bedrooms in which each seeks to know and possess the other. That's pretty much why I got it. Sounds good. Nikolsky by Nicholas Dicker. This one is translated by Lazar Liederhendler. This one is about 3 different characters. Their stories don't intersect until I think they all travel to Montreal, and that's really all I know about it. Picked up a couple of books of poetry this time around. I found Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth. This is by Warsan Shire. I actually found this one online used again. I just loved that cover art. And then also Transformations by Anne Sexton. Basically, I've just been wanting to read more poetry because that was something that I did in college, but a lot of times poetry intimidated me, and I don't really feel that way anymore. So I've been wanting to sort of catch up on things that I've been missing out on. The Shipping News by Annie Proulx, and this was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. I have never read this author before. That's kind of going to be a theme with this book haul. It's about a man whose wife, who was cheating on him, I believe, dies, and then he takes his two daughters to this remote area in Newfoundland and starts over. Okay, so this is going to be a depressing one. This is A Mother's Reckoning, Living in the Aftermath of Tragedy by Sue Klebold. So this is about one of the boys that murdered all those people at Columbine. And I thought it would be interesting to read because I think that when something happens like that, we just automatically sort of try to distance ourselves from it and say, oh, you know, that could never happen to my kids, or, you know, that's not going to happen in my neighborhood or anything like that. And I think I'll find while I'm reading this that, you know, this teenager, he probably wasn't all that different from a lot of people that live in the United States today. So I thought this would be pretty interesting. I also found Oblivion by David Foster Wallace. I have read David Foster Wallace's essays, but I've never read his fiction before. So when I saw this, I thought that I would try his fiction out, considering that I think he's an amazing essay writer. Poor Things by Alasdair Gray. This one I think is going to be a little bit disturbing. It's about two scientists. They're in love with the same woman, but this woman, I think, is someone that they created. And she doesn't have the cognitive ability of an adult. She's more like a child. So that to me says disturbing. But it also kind of has those weird science vibes if you've ever seen that movie. And also the cover, I couldn't resist. Okay, so I found these 3 gorgeous vintage copies of Willa Cather novels. And they're also Willa Cather novels that I've never heard of before and that I don't think of traditionally as fiction that Willa Cather would write. This first one is Lucy Gayheart. It's about a young woman who moves to Chicago and gets her heart broken. Sorry, my video cut out, so sorry if this little bit's a bit choppy. But A Lost Lady is about this woman who's sort of a pillar of the community, and everyone admires her, but it turns out that she's not so perfect after all. And then also The Old Beauty and Others, which is a collection of either short stories or novellas. And then Oh Pioneers here is a book that I just don't own a copy of, and this is more of the fiction that I'm used to from Willa Cather. I've also read My Antonia, which is a beautiful book. She's a gorgeous writer, and if you ever have a chance to read a biography about her, I highly encourage it. She was a fascinating person, and she lived here in Nebraska for quite a while and actually graduated from the same university that I did. So Briar Rose by Jane Yolen. This is another author that I've been wanting to read for a while but just haven't gotten around to. So when I saw this copy, I picked it up, even though it's young adult, which I don't really read too much of anymore. So I believe that this author reconstructs fairy tales in a feminist way, and that's why I've been wanting to read her, and I think this one incorporates the Holocaust. So The Reader by Bernard Schlink. This one is translated from the German by Carol Brown Janeway. This is about a 15-year-old boy who has an affair with an older woman, and then years later, after the affair is over, he sees her on trial and learns all these new things about her. I think that that one was made into a movie, and it was pretty popular on YouTube a while ago. The Garden of Evening Mists by Tan Tuan Ang. This is another one that I actually ordered online, used. So again, still affordable. I'm being a good girl. This one is about a survivor of a Japanese wartime camp, and she ends up meeting this Japanese gardener, and she, you know, has this prejudice against him because of everything that's happened, but she wants him to create a garden for her sister who died. And sorry, this was the stack of books. So he refuses to do it, but he promises that he'll teach her how to do it. So it'll be more meaningful, I guess, and they end up developing a pretty close relationship. So We Were the Mulvannies by Joyce Carol Oates. This one I think is more of a family saga. And then Middle Age of Romance by Joyce Carol Oates. I don't know why I can't say Carol and then Oates after each other. Anyway, this one is about a young man who ends up dying. Actually, scratch that, not young man, middle-aged man who ends up dying sort of tragically or heroically in this neighborhood where everybody's rich and beautiful, and I think it's supposed to be kind of a satire. And then The Gravedigger's Daughter, which is about a Jewish family that flees Germany in the 1930s and settles in the United States, but ends up finding that anti-Semitism is still alive and well. Also found The Polished Hoe by Austen Clark. This is about a woman who lives in Barbados after World War II, and she ends up calling the authorities to her house to confess to a crime that she committed. And it ends up being a story about colonialism and race, and it just sounded really interesting to me. Also picked up Notes on Nursing, What It Is and What It Is Not by Florence Nightingale. If you don't know already, I am in nursing school. I complain about it all the time in every single video probably, not because I don't like nursing. I love nursing, the actual act of nursing, but class is kicking my butt. So I'm really excited for school to end for me in May. Veronica Decides to Die by Paulo Coelho. So this is the author of The Alchemist, and this is translated from the Portuguese by Margaret Jewel Costa. I've never read The Alchemist, but I'm actually more interested in this book than I am in The Alchemist. It's about a young woman who decides that she's going to commit suicide, but she attempts it, doesn't succeed, and ends up in a mental hospital. Also found this collection of short stories called Paris Tales. It's translated by Helen Constantine, and it has a story in here by Maupassant, which is why I picked it up, although I probably would have picked it up anyways. It's basically stories inspired by monuments or famous places. Also found I Capture the Castle by Dottie Smith. This is a book that I read a really long time ago. It's a coming-of-age story about a young woman and her sister and two men that they meet. And the young woman is, or I should probably say young girl, is a budding writer, and it's just a really beautifully done story. Also found The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde. This one is a collection of children's stories, and I picked it up mainly because I love the art in here. I think it's fantastic. I was really excited to find this. And then last but not least, I have all of these precariously stacked books around me. Baudolino by Umberto Eco. So this one is translated from Italian by William Weaver. And Umberto Eco, again, an author that I've never read, but I really want to read. This story in particular is about a young man who ends up meeting the right people during his life, you know, rich, influential, famous people, and he gets a group of these eccentric people together, and they go out on a search for this mystical person in this mystical land, I think. What is the guy's name? They're looking for Prester John, a legendary priest king said to rule over a vast kingdom in the east. So this just sounded really interesting. I had my eye on The Name of the Rose. That was the one that I really wanted to find, but I found this one instead. I think this author also passed away recently, but I've been wanting to read him, so I was happy to find that. I think that's everything. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought about them, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.